Hello everyone and welcome to the next video. I'm at Chinner Hill, a place I've actually been writing about for the past week or so for a short essay called Defiance in Half Light. It's about my experiences at Chinner Hill coming here over the years, and in particular the value of watching the sunset at the overlook, which I'm quite near. It's about, again, the value of the twilight and coming to see humanity not as people of the day, creatures of the day, defilers, managers, even advocates, but wanderers in a wider world. I might talk about that later on perhaps, or in another video. So yes, I'm sitting at Chinner Hill and I wanted to give you an update on where I am and why I've not really been putting out as many videos of late. I'm obviously trying to focus on other things. One of those, some of you may know, was that I was making my way back into Dunsany studies, so I did about a 40-minute talk for the Inkling Folk Fellowship on returning to wildness and wonder in the short stories of Lord Dunsany, his critique of modernity. So that was an interesting experience. I had not really done anything like that before. I plan to do more of them in the future, hopefully. And yes, I'm hoping to write some articles for Dunsany as well, get into Mythlore perhaps, the journal Mythlore and other such publications. But it's a kind of a conflict between, do I continue Dunsany studies or focus on more general things? And sometimes I lean more towards general studies and whatnot. Another interesting thing that's happened is that I've been lucky enough to be appointed to the voluntary position of publicity and outreach manager for the Ecological Citizen. Something that I never really thought I would say, to be honest. Of course, I've mentioned the journal multiple times on this channel throughout the years. All started after I wrote an article on World of Warcraft for the Ecological Citizen in 2021. I met Patrick Curry through this, inspired me to write my thesis. I took part in, which then led me to take part in the course for Wonder and Enchantment, of course. And I saw an advertisement for the Ecological Citizen, a voluntary position, which I really jumped at, if I'm being honest. I'm not so much of a social media person, especially in terms of SEO, search engine optimization, and things like this. I'm not up to date on these on trendy platforms like TikTok and whatnot. I even left Facebook for quite a long time. But what actually interests me is the outreach part of it. I'm trying to transition again from ecological consultancy to something related to nature engagement, and I'm going to rant a little bit about jobs in this video, but for now I would like to try and get more hands-on experience of engaging people with concepts like ecocentrism and so forth. So it's just a wonderful opportunity to help out in any way I can, and indeed we had the first meeting last night. So just with me and two other people, and it was very insightful, very interesting, and we'll see where it goes. We've got a plan now. I think we've got a plan to see what I can do for them, and how things might progress. It's a shame that such a prominent, it's not a prominent journal. It should be a prominent journal. There's a huge list of signatories on the Ecological Citizen. People like Jane Goodall have actually signed the list. It's quite an impressive editorial board, and I happen to find myself on that board now, even if it's just a voluntary position. Well, actually, all of the people on the Ecological Citizen board are voluntary. So yes, I'm excited to see where that goes. But of course, I'm most excited about, and perhaps apprehensive in a way, about this new project that I've created. Thitherword. Not this channel, of course, not this YouTube channel, but my journal. Some of you may know that I launched a website, thitherword.com, a fair while ago now, maybe a few weeks ago or so. And I'm very pleased how Thitherword turned out aesthetically, and I spent a good while writing an extended credo for the About page. It serves as a mission statement, essentially. It's all there. I think it's all there. I've got submission guidelines and so forth. I think it's quite clear what we're looking for. But perhaps I might need to narrow it down just a little bit. The other word is really about recalling the storied and beautiful in our world, and that's obviously something that's a big part of this particular channel, which is, I guess, no surprise. So the other word is really driven by, again, this desire to recover and recall the storied and beautiful. It's about walking with the earth, remembering it as the iron will of modernity seeks to imprison us physically and mentally. It's quite broad, admittedly. A good deal of the other word is focused on art and architecture, recovery of natural motifs and whatnot. For example, seeing a deer carving as you walk down the street, or looking at a human figure, a statue of a human figure. Aspirational images connecting us again to culture and the natural world. But it's also a lot broader than that. I'm of course putting the philosophy of wonder and ecological ethics into this. It's a summation of everything that I talk about on this channel. Non-anthropocentrism, ecocentrism, the importance of wonder, the importance of, again, art, bringing that aspirational focus into art and architecture, not this sense of ugliness and discordancy. Recovering the storied and beautiful. It's really summed up by Coleridge's poem, Fears, a couple of lines in Coleridge's poem, Fears and Solitude. With light and quickened steps, thitherward I tend, remembering thee, O green and silent dell. I think that's how it goes. Beautiful poem. And that is the goal of this journal. I am a bit apprehensive about this, however, since it costs money to maintain. It's on Squarespace, so it costs money to maintain. Quite a lot of money for just hosting a couple of web pages. I did try and migrate to WordPress, but I find that it's nowhere near good enough for the aesthetic that I want. And of course, it's just me and my twin Ryan just now. You do get a lot of magazines, outlets that are maybe 1 to 3 people, which is fine. It's just I think if there were more people attached to the project, it might garner more attention. I think this is something that's going to take quite a while to gain that attention, even with the advertisements that have already been kind of put in place. It was advertised for the Inkling Folk Fellowship when I did that talk. It was advertised with the Ecological Citizen when I took on the position of outreach manager. It's even been put on the Submission Grinder, which is a non-profit donation-based database for writing, for fiction and non-fiction. I reached out to them, and very, very quickly, and quite surprisingly, all of the details of the other word are on this website now, Submission Grinder. All the details are there, so it's a good way of getting the other word known to writers, I suppose. But I think this is still going to be something that takes a very long time, so if you are interested in writing for the other word, please head over to thitherword.com and have a look at the mission statement on the About page, have a look at the submission guidelines and see if it's something that interests you. It is quite broad, as I say. This is something that I think we like, again, at the other word, we like to take from many, many different perspectives. I would say that the other word is has a strange blend of culturally conservative, but then also not at all culturally conservative in terms of pluralistic regard for nature, non-anthropocentrism and so forth. We take bits and pieces, so we'll have people like Roger Scruton, Patrick Curry, Byung-Chul Han, Michelle Series, Emil Cioran, conservatives, liberals, all sorts. I think the point is that we care about looking outward and again recalling the storied and beautiful in our world. So if it's something that interests you, please do consider when the submission window actually does open, consider writing for us. Or you could write to us just to say how we could improve the platform, for example. I am trying to focus more on health as well. Been going to the gym a lot more, lifting weights and just generally being more active. I usually get my exercise just from hiking in the woods and hills, but trying to make a more concerted effort, so that's of course taking a bit of time. Just got a bike as well, so I will be happily making my way through the Phoenix Trail, which is a lovely very long trail, goes on for miles and miles where I live. So there's all that to consider as well. So something that is taking up a lot of time is that I'm looking for work, and surprisingly not really being able to gain employment. It's something that I could ramble on about for quite a long time. So it can also sound self-indulgent and even quite vain at times if I go on about how I feel like I should be able to get a job. Perhaps some of you know the frustrations of this. Sometimes I feel like I should just go back to ecological consultancy. I've been applying for all sorts of jobs over the past several months. It might even be half a year since I have been really making a concerted effort to look for jobs after the full-time masters, of course. Applying for everything from editing for NGOs, writing, research, even educational positions for a prehistory place just maybe an hour away or so. Very similar to Butts for Ancient Farm. I never got that. It's rather frustrating. I've applied for ecological magazines, and you would think that I would be I would hope to have. I hope to always get a response from these types of places, but sometimes they don't even deign to give you a response. Ecological magazines, all sorts of nature NGOs that I don't know. Maybe this is wrong of me. Maybe the job market is just so terrible, but I would hope that having the highest grade category in every course I've ever done would prick up some ears, but apparently not. And more importantly, obviously grades aren't everything. More importantly, I think I can be a bit stressed thinking about the range of experience. In terms of nature, of course, everything from practical countryside management to technical surveys and whatnot, habitat mapping, data analysis, and then of course transitioning to the humanities with the thesis that got an award. And I think it can be frustrating when you're applying for so many jobs and you don't even get responses for jobs that you should be able to get a response from. But I'm liable to ramble. That's not really what this video is about, but there have of course been various stirrings in the news and whatnot. I've been reading a lot of articles suggesting that the job market is very poor these days and unemployment rates are rising and so forth. Sometimes I think I should just be going back to ecological consultancy. I think I would actually be on the ladder to being a principal ecologist by now if I had actually stayed where I was, continuing to get species licenses and so forth. And I mean, I know people from university that actually are in that position now, and I got higher grades than them, and I'm currently unemployed and loving what I'm doing in terms of creativity and whatnot, but not actually in gainful employment yet, which is a bit of an unfortunate thing. Now, related to this is something that I'll try to be briefer about, because it's probably the most difficult decision I've ever had to make, and that is whether or not to do a PhD. Since I finished the Masters in September, I've been completely and totally conflicted by this. So many conversations, so many articles read, so many posts made by myself trying to figure out if this is the right path to take. 'Cause I know so many people at the minute that personally that are doing PhDs, and it can feel like I'm not fulfilling my potential, especially when I'm currently unemployed. It feels like why not do a PhD? I almost said why not just do a PhD, but then of course you can find articles online saying if you say why not just do it, it's probably not right for you. Of course, I do feel like I feel like I have a decent grasp of a subject that I might want to study and to bring something to the field, and I would be doing it for the intrinsic value of a PhD. But I've read so many things. I've read so many things about people regretting it, quitting halfway through. There are of course all these wider issues related to faults in academia, most of which I agree with, related to the focus on identity politics and kind of distortions of traditional views in academia, everything being related to race, sex and gender and so forth. It's not something that I necessarily agree with, but a lot of people talk about the slow march through the institutions, Marxism and things like this, but I'm not entirely sure I agree with that line of thinking. But I mean, if I did do a PhD, I'd probably study at Buckingham again, which actually seems to be a bastion of free speech, and they're quite a different university in terms of, well, just look at Buckingham compared to other universities and you might see what I mean, but that's not really what I'm going into here. There was a point where I really thought I was going to do a PhD several months ago, and I was kind of straining and striving to write some applications and figuring out funding and so forth, but I decided against it, or at least I decided I would take this year, 2024, to think about it, and maybe by the end of the year have a proposal done for Buckingham or some other university, like University of Hertfordshire I think it was, which is fairly close. Yes, I can feel myself in the future, I could see myself in the future perhaps regretting that I didn't do a PhD, and that's the unfortunate thing. Is it the right path or is it the wrong path? I've often thought that I should just focus on general writing. Not everything has to be about that next step up the academic ladder. And yet I can't help feel that everyone, if you put someone with a master's degree beside a PhD, most people would say that the person with the PhD will be more learned and disciplined and so forth, and I would even tend to agree with that as well. In some ways, I just wish that I could let myself be content with where I am in terms of academia. But there are, of course, all sorts of avenues and things that can be done. It doesn't necessarily have to be this long 3-year project on a single topic. I know some people that are doing quite well, running their own businesses and doing meeting or conferences and lectures and so forth without having done a PhD. And of course, people do PhDs later in life, but I don't know, is 32, I say 30 being the Scottish pronunciation, 30, is 30 too old to do a PhD? I don't think it is, but then I will be 31 in November, and that's obviously the kind of the start of the academic year. Well, September is, I believe. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm always 50-50 on it, to be honest. I think there are some people that have done PhDs or have started PhDs that watch Thitherword. So please tell me if you think it's worthwhile, because I'm really not sure. So that's really where I am at the minute. Lots of interesting developments. Hopefully they continue throughout the year. I just want to talk about Thitherword in particular now. So I just want to talk about reviews. I've not been doing as many of them, partly because of all the other things that have been going on, but the fact that they can be quite time consuming to do, and admittedly it started to feel like every book I read nowadays should be reviewed, because a lot of them do fit very well with the channel. For example, I read a book on Ruskin, read essays on Montaigne recently, here in particular, a book on beauty and its connection to ethics, all sorts of books. I was very kindly given an award voucher for the thesis, and I bought about 8 or 9 books from that, so I've been making my way through those. And there's just so many books that I'd love to review for the channel, and I said I would review these books that I just mentioned, or some of them, but I haven't gotten around to those. And of course the age-old issue is that it's difficult to review books when the details fade, and that obviously applies to these older books that I've always wanted to review as well. So with everything going on, it's just, especially with the setup takes quite a while. I might try and, I've been considering doing audio reviews instead. It'll be a lot easier, but we'll have to see how that goes. In terms of the other video series, well, admittedly I've started to feel like maybe I shouldn't be placing so much focus on Thitherword. That might be unfortunate to hear for some of you that are long-time viewers. I just feel like they don't really gain as much attention as I would like. I can spend quite a while on making some of these videos, and they don't really get much traction. And it's curious, because I watch a lot of YouTube channels of all sorts, and even these smaller channels can get quite a lot of views, even for free. I'm thinking of one particular channel I was watching just today, a political channel, 3-minute videos, voiceover with just a single image or some video clips, and this will get hundreds of views at least just in a day or so, and the actual channel itself has about 18,000 or 19,000 subscribers. And I feel like I've gone out to Scotland and recorded videos at nature reserves. I've covered rewelding projects. I've talked with my twin about my writing project with green screen behind me and all sorts of fancy techniques for video editing. Reviews that are fairly high quality, I think. A series on wonder and enchantment with lots of notes and so forth. I've put a lot of effort into this channel, but I don't really think it's going anywhere fast. So I would like to see it grow a little bit more. I've gained a decent amount of subscribers recently, in fact, but it's unfortunate that it's not really growing, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Hopefully you understand that production of Thitherword might slow down. It depends. I'll still try to keep up the reviews. I have not had as much time to go out into nature, at least in terms of for specifically for the channel. I did hope to get more GoPro footage and whatnot, but that's not really been the case. Just quite busy recently. So again, thanks for watching, everyone. Till next time.